of this case. A dispatch from the Inspector General's office urges all persons who purchase land from Jadama Real Estate to report to the Major Crimes Unit at the police headquarters in Banjul. Affected persons are advised to take along with them documents involving the transactions relating to the purchase of the land. The Office of the Inspector General of Police urges all to cooperate with the police in order to ensure a smooth and thorough investigation into the matter. Another press release from the Office of the Inspector General of Police informs the general public that 2 unidentified corpses washed onto the beach from the sea were found at Bakau. And due to the nature of one of the bodies, a media release issued by the police says health authorities recommend its burial on the beach. Meanwhile, the dispatch reveals that the other corpse is at the mortuary awaiting identification. The general public is hereby implored to report any recent case of drowning or capsized boat to the nearest police station. People who recently missed their family members are invited to visit the morgue for possible identification of the body. The Office of the Inspector General of Police solicits the cooperation of all in this endeavor. Well, time now to take our first break. When we come back, we'll take a look at more news. Stay tuned in.
Lucozade Energy, energizing Gambia.
Welcome back. Cuba is facing uncertainty following the death of President Hugo Chavez. Mourners waited in a long queue to attend a memorial for the Venezuelan president. Questions still remain as to what will happen to the oil subsidies that followed from Caracas to Havana. We have more in the CNN report.
In a crowd of thousands in the hot Cuban sun, Elvira Varela fights back tears as she remembers Hugo Chavez.
He helped Cuba so much. He was like a brother to Fidel. That's why I carry his picture.
It was not long ago that Cubans felt abandoned by the world. The Soviet Union had fallen. The Cuban economy was in tatters. Then a newly elected Hugo Chavez offered a political alliance and generous oil subsidies. For 12 hours Thursday, a line of mourners in Havana that stretched seemingly forever paid Chavez their respects. Raul Castro saluted Chavez before heading to Caracas to attend his state funeral. Absent from view, Fidel Castro sent these flowers to the man who once kept vigil next to the Cuban leader's hospital bed. There is an overwhelming sense of sadness in Cuba right now, not just over the loss of a key ally, but also with the realization that all of Cuba's efforts to keep Hugo Chavez alive were not enough. For months, Chavez was treated at Cuba's top hospitals, far from public view. Cuban worshippers, the Santeria religion, made offerings to the evil spirits that seemed to stalk Chavez.
Buenas noches.
And when Chavez finally succumbed, a government newscaster broke down an air announcing his death. Chavez is Cuban, he said. Chavez is in our hearts.
Hasta la victoria. Siempre, comandante.
Also on Cubans' minds is Chavez's oil that powers much of Cuban industry. The future of those 100,000 barrels a day is unclear.
But to Cuba is huge. The impact of Cuba losing that contract or that arrangement, either due to a change of government or a change of policy in Venezuela, will be disastrous not only from an economic point of view, but also from a social and political point of view.
Rights activists in India say their country has long since turned a blind eye to the contagion of violence against women. While after a spate of rape cases in recent times, Indian women are on a campaign for change. Sunima Udas has more in this report.
For weeks, thousands of Indian women braved the harsh New Delhi cold to protest the deadly gang rape of a 23-year-old student. They camped out in front of police stations, blocking traffic. They marched in silence. and sometimes the protests turn violent.
When this incident happened and the protests came out, for the first time I felt very empowered on the streets.
The protests may have dwindled, and rape is no longer dominating the headlines. But Sonia Diojane says finally her voice is being heard. Like most girls their age, they enjoy hanging out after class, going to the movies, and just being themselves. But they've had to grow up being cautious.
You can't laugh as loud as boys in the bus. You can't, be uncouth like boys in the bus.
As girls, we've always been told that this is something you have to do. You have to, obey certain rules and travel in a certain way.
And activities which would feel safe in many countries are still anything but.
I'm actually feeling unsafe in late at night and going to watch a film somewhere. I would never do that. I can't dream of doing that.
Everyone is scared. Parents are really scared.
It's now 7 p.m. Diojane's parents have called several times, worried. As the bus approaches, she takes steps to avoid unwanted attention. There are designated sections for women, but the rules are rarely followed.
One has to deal with not trying to get any attention. You have to try your best to be invisible.
Delhi has always been known as the crime capital of India. According to government data, the city accounted for almost 20% of all rape cases, and more cases of rape are reported here than any other major Indian city. But 21-year-old Khushi is breaking with tradition. She is one of Delhi's few female cab drivers. All girls can sew and cook, she says, but I choose to drive a cab because it's unique, because men are told only they can drive. Khushi has taken self-defense classes and carries pepper spray. Still, she's proud to be able to do what many women in Delhi won't. Others opt for careers traditionally dominated by men, like Rupa, who's a traffic police officer. Her job requires her to stand in the middle of one of Delhi's busiest intersections. She says she'd rather be doing something else, but in her uniform, she feels empowered. Sumnima Udas, CNN, New Delhi.
All time now to take another break. When we return, we'll take a look at sports.
KGI Fashion Shop, Standard Chartered House, nekk ci traffic light, Caraba Avenue. Di leen indil li nga xam ne mooy latest ci fashion, rawatina pour jongoma yi. Ladies lingerie yang fa, dresses ak tops yang fa, ba tey fashion jewelry. Am nañ fa ladies shoes ak seen matching bags, am nañ fa mesh yi, am nañ wigs, ba tey am nañ coats ak blazers. Lii yëpp pour jongoma yi. Ba tey am nañ incense, maanaam cuuraay yu neex xeet lool. Ba tey am nañ fa curtains, maanaam ay rideau pour seen néeg yi. Fàttewuñ góor yi, men shirts ak trousers yang fa ak yeneen fashion yu bari. KGI Fashion Shop, mbir bi yomb lool. Dama ne dem leen KGI Fashion Shop.
Welcome back. Manchester United face a big FA Cup match against Chelsea this weekend, but all the talk beforehand centers on Wayne Rooney's future with the club. CNN's Amanda Davis is more on the controversy surrounding Rooney's future and other sporting activities.
Yeah, there's been plenty of controversy this week surrounding his future, hasn't there? And Sir Alex Ferguson has promised that Rooney will be staying at Manchester United next season. The Old Trafford boss gave his word that the striker won't be going anywhere after speculation that the 28-year-old was on his way out, having been left on the bench for United's Champions League match against Real Madrid on Tuesday. But speaking ahead of Sunday's FA Cup quarter-final against Chelsea, Ferguson denied that that was the case. He said, "He will be here next year. You have my word on that. There is no issue between myself and Wayne Rooney. To suggest we don't talk is nonsense. There are no issues with the player and he will be involved on Sunday." Well, Chelsea will have to pick themselves up for that clash against United this weekend, having lost their Europa League last 16 first-leg match against Steaua Bucharest on Thursday. Interim manager Rafa Benitez
And before we go, a reminder of headlines. The revitalization of cross-border languages for inter-regional dialogue and knowledge promotion has gained prominence at a 3-day sub-regional conclave hosted by Banjul. Officials of the Food and Agriculture Organization and partners have met